Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, feeling like something is watching you? It was always the same for me. I would stir from sleep, feeling an unease that I couldn't quite place. My room was dark, but there was always a shadow on the wall, one that moved without reason. At first I dismissed it, thinking my tired eyes were playing tricks on me. But each night the shadow crept closer. Sometimes we choose to ignore the things that make us uncomfortable, hoping they will go away on their own. But the more we deny them, the closer they come, forcing us to face what we fear. How long can you pretend something isn't real? I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but every time I woke up, the shadow was a little nearer. It no longer stayed in the corner of the room. It had a path, and it was heading straight for me. What was worse was that it moved without any light to create it. There was no lamp or moonbeam casting it, only darkness, and yet it was there, inching forward. In life, some problems don't have obvious causes, but that doesn't make them any less real. Ignoring their existence won't stop their approach. We must confront them before they consume us. What would you do if you knew you couldn't escape? As the nights went on, my fear turned to dread. I didn't know what would happen when the shadow reached me, but I felt its intent, something dark, something inevitable. I started staying up late, keeping all the lights on, but the shadow didn't care. It still moved, as if the light itself had no power over it. I realized then that some fears live inside us. Beyond any external light, we shine on them. No matter how much we try to illuminate our lives with distractions, there are shadows within us that need our attention. Running from them only gives them strength. We must learn to understand and embrace our inner darkness. Have you ever been paralyzed by fear? The night it finally stood at the foot of my bed, I froze. My body refused to move, my voice stuck in my throat. The shadow was no longer just a shape. It had form, substance, and it was reaching for me. But as it loomed closer, I realized something. This shadow wasn't just an entity. It was a reflection of me, my fears, my regrets, my pain, everything I had tried to avoid. I had created it. The things we fear most are often parts of ourselves that we refuse to face. By avoiding them, we give them the power to take over. It's only by confronting our inner demons that we can take control of our lives again. What happens when you stop running? That night, instead of closing my eyes or pulling the covers over my head, I sat up. I stared at the shadow, acknowledging it for what it was, a part of me. And as I did, something changed. The shadow didn't move closer. It stopped. It hesitated. And in that moment, I realized I held the power. The fear I had been running from for so long no longer controlled me. The shadow began to fade, retreating back into the darkness from where it came. Facing our fears gives us the power to overcome them. The more we run, the more control they have. But when we stop and acknowledge them, we take away their strength. What are you running from in your own life? We all have shadows, fears that creep closer the more we try to avoid them. But just like the shadow on my wall, they don't have to consume us. The moment we turn to face them, we realize they're not as powerful as we once thought. So I ask you, what shadow are you avoiding in your life? Don't wait until it's too late. Face your fears now, before they grow too large to handle. Look within yourself, acknowledge what you've been avoiding, and take the first step toward confronting it. In the end, the shadow on the wall wasn't an external threat, but an internal one, my own fears manifesting in the dark. And like all fears, it only had power because I gave it power. The lesson here is simple. What we run from will always chase us. It's only when we stop and face it that we can begin to truly